Okay, we've got recording. It's green.
There we go.
All right, can I call the Planning Board and Zoning Commission meeting for June 24th, 2026 to order? Can I have a roll call, please?
Roberts. Here. Gray. Tupin.
Here.
Ecclesville. Boise.
Here.
And Conley.
Here.
Did you get me?
And Di Benedetto.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the minutes for
June 10th.
June 10th.
for June 10th, 2026?
I move to approve the minutes of June 10th as written.
A second.
Is there any corrections, discussion, or? Being none, call for the vote, please.
Roberts. Yes. Tupin.
Yes.
Boise.
Yes.
Conley.
Yeah.
And Di Benedetto.
Yes. Okay, communication from Board and Council, Urban Renewal Agency update.
We met last week ago, Monday, and whatever date that was. It was the 15th of June. And we had a presentation from the foundation for the fire station, and they talked about the expansion and capital campaign that they are in the process of doing right now. And in a nutshell, we told them we have an application online and they should fill it out, and we could have a conversation after that's complete. And there's also discussion on form-based zoning, which will require further conversation with Jeremy and ultimately us all. And we're also decided we're going to have a special meeting tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. All are welcome. We will be prioritizing some of the information for options, actually, that were given to us by Kansas State University TAB programs, technical assistance, brownfields. We're going to narrow down the options that were given, and ultimately we will be making a recommendation to this board as to what we like. And we also had a letter from a citizen about sidewalk expansion along Broadway, and we basically tabled that and went back to that person with seeking input from the actual property owners and getting some cost information so we would know what we were talking about.
Are you aware that the city has a program that they will share the cost of sidewalks?
Yes, the mayor was there, and he did bring that up. But again, it's in the URD, but I think the property owners themselves need to be a participant in the conversation.
Yes.
So,
and they have to be participants.
And again, back to the application process. We have a process in place, and we want to stay with that. But yeah, it was a great idea. I mean, we're not opposed to it. It's just we don't have enough information to act upon it, and our resources are pretty limited.
Also, there is a long-term plan by the state highway.
Yep.
As long as you keep that in mind. They have kept punching it back further.
Yeah, I think 2028 is the current year.
Still
but
somewhere there.
yeah, but again, the other question is, which side of 212 are we going to end up with, so.
Well, I think that their plan is on the west side of 212.
That was the most recent one we have heard, yes.
Yeah, the plans that I've seen for years.
So this would be a good tie, the sidewalk proposal would be a good tie-in, because it's basically to take sidewalks up to Robinson Lane and then we let the state deal with from Robinson on north.
To the hospital.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess one last thing, we had someone who was there who's expressed it. Well, we had conversation about having a renter on the URA board, because we don't currently have any renters. And there was a person that's interested in that, and they are going to write a letter to the mayor and go through the process. And we're all in favor of that. So that, in a nutshell, was our last meeting.
Cool.
Any questions for? Yeah, on the sidewalks and trail, I just wonder if it'd be good time to reopen the discussion about extending the bike and trail path on the east side and acquiring the required easements to get that accomplished. That's been discussed for 30 years.
Or more.
Well, yeah, with help by litigation, but the
and-
decision came down. So there has been a decision. We now know what the easement off of 212 is to the east, and it's like 125 feet. So,
Well, the reason I mention that is the more I travel around to small communities, and in their entrances, they have a dedicated bike and walking path that's multimodal, that's segregated or separated from the road, and is not considered a sidewalk. And
right.
I really think we should put some pressure on, or the city should put some pressure on Montana Department of Transportation and see if we can't get that accomplished. I'm not sure why Red Lodge seems to have so much trouble getting pedestrian and bicycle-friendly infrastructure through Montana Department of Transportation, but if other communities can make it happen, I'm kind of wondering why Red Lodge isn't able to. And I was reading where Montana Department of Transportation has a position that's basically focused on
Multimodal?
multimodal paths. So,
Yep, great idea.
I had a question, Terry, maybe the brownfields, is that program only for housing?
No,
Okay.
it's, and, when the DEQ person was here at the last community input session, he was very clear, and actually they're there, for instance, if you have a former filling station, you're trying to sell the land, put in a request to them, they'll come and make sure that
It's clean.
it's clean, because just to facilitate the sale, because they gave an example of one that had been for sale and been for sale and been for sale. I think it was in Livingston, but and there was suspicion that there were issues with the property, and that's why it wasn't sellable. And they came in and gave it a clean bill of health, and the property sold pretty much right away. So.
Okay.
is that it?
That's it.
City Council.
Yeah, we are moving forward or signed off a letter of intent. Is that what we were doing? A resolution of intent for the Eagles Nest. Essentially getting that, the city is pursuing the opportunity with FEMA to again purchase that property and demolish flood-prone buildings and structures on 2 different parcels. So that is something that was voted on and signed off on, and the application will be going in before July 9th, I believe it is due. One thing that is encouraged, and we might even do it as a board, we can submit letters of recommendation or, what is that word?
Their support.
Letters of support, thank you, yep. So that is something that we have the ability to do, and I did ask that we have that made public and available online on the city website. So
It was, but the link didn't work.
On Facebook today. So.
yeah.
And so the question really came up, which I asked, was would an email suffice as a letter of support? It would. Okay. That was my one question on that one.
So yeah, I just think that's exciting and great news.
And the pre-flood value was $2 million?
2.3.
Wow.
Yeah. Mhm.
But you had an appraisal, so,
Mhm.
okay.
Yep. Mhm. You betcha. It's appraised, and if we can get the government to pay for it. that's
And
great.
he's agreed to accept 75%. Perfect. It won't cost the city anything but demolition,
That's exciting.
and there's not much demolition to do, I think flood.
I was gonna say, I don't think we can have to pay for it. I think you just get the community to go.
Well, they can collect the rocks, free rocks.
We'll just have a late night.
Free rocks for your garden.
Oh, yeah.
Come pick
I mean,
'em up.
I see people in there all the time taking rocks.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So anyhow, that's exciting. And then in other news, just in terms of the road
Golly.
construction and all of those pieces, we do anticipate having all the roads open. There is a work order put in place to essentially stop work on the second,
On the second?
I believe the second.
Well, the first parade is on the second.
Yeah, so there won't be work happening on the second, and they plan
Okay.
on having every road open, and all the paving should be done by the end of this week,
Wow. Wow,
with
that's
the exception of Fifth.
still, that's still back to wow.
Mhm. So they've been cranking away, and that's, I think it, and then in terms of land use and planning, we are still in process of working with Jeremy on the application for city-owned land, or redesignating city-owned land. And so it's a really thorough application at this point, covers a lot of the pieces that we really wanted to see in there.
Good.
And it's a 3-tiered application, so depending on the scale of the project, depends on how much you need to provide. So we're still working on that, but, one of the things that we did include for planning board's knowledge is there may be the request for review, from the different advisory boards, and that includes planning board. So it depends on the project, obviously, but, we're not gonna come in and ask, like, can we put a bench here? But it might be, hey, we need to refocus on rezoning this parcel, or does this fit with our zoning and growth policy? Like, does this fit with a design review, those types of pieces?
Does zoning, I know zoning is ignored by the county government. Is zoning ignored by the city government?
No, I don't believe so. But I also can't speak to that. Jeremy would probably have a better answer than me.
Jeremy, do you know that one?
I mean, technically, the city could, if it so choose, but because that statute applies to any government, so, technically you could bypass your own zoning, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay.
That could make some folks fairly upset, I believe, so I would always recommend that the city follow their own codes for their projects, just to show that you're being consistent with your own policies and regulations, as much as the citizens are, so.
And that sign that's on the Old Bastion property, is that for riprap and fixing?
The sign on the Bastion property, I think is just recognizing the grant opportunity for, I think it was for the riprap. I'll have to see you on that.
For the water and sewer, I think.
It's what?
It's for a water project in that area, it's not directly.
It's not on that project. It's not on that
I
property.
think I'd have to read the sign more accurately, but when I drove by, I thought, oh, they're putting it there because they're doing several waters underneath the creek, south of there in Railroad Park.
Right,
But if they put the sign in Railroad Park, nobody would see it.
and Park Avenue, because Park Avenue is kind of,
So it's kind of over the bridge as you go over to where it is, I think it's just where they put that.
okay, I thought it had something to do with that property. Okay.
Jason too.
That it?
I think so.
Any other questions for Kelsey? I did notice, I got a Google Groups notice today for soliciting people to write in comments relative to the purchase of the Eagles Nest property. So for those in the audience, if you didn't hear,
It's a lot.
there's that request out there if you're interested in supporting the purchase of Eagle Nest. Mayor?
I just want to clarify, get a little bit ahead of it. The Eagles Nest project is not a done deal by any means. This is us applying for finance, and one of the things that it requires with the application is a letter of commitment from the city that says, yes, we recognize that you're only gonna pay 75% of the cost. It was mentioned that we do have a letter from the property owner acknowledging that we will come to them and ask them to accept 75% of the cost and basically getting their agreement and concept before we go through this effort of getting that. And I'd like to think that our chances are slightly better than 50-50 on that, but part of that depends on what else goes wrong in the state and what else happens and is competing for that money between now and then. But we've got two different funding sources that we're pursuing on that. And that will cover 75% of the demolition cost too. So the maximum outlay, as I see it right now, Jeremy, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the maximum outlay we have right now would be 25% of the demolition cost, and that's assuming that we didn't have state funds available, and there's a couple of other non-federal funds that are available. We were able to get all of that covered on the Rocky Fork project. I'm optimistic that we could do that, but if worst case scenario is we're paying for 25% of demolition, I don't think people will scream if we do that out of like resort tax. So, and it'll be first half of next year before we find out if we make the short list, and then a little later in the year we'd find out if it was awarded. Am I right on those timelines, Jeremy?
Yep, that's correct. So by the end of the year, we should know if we're, again, shortlisted. Then if we are, that'll go into FEMA's review process for environmental review, and they got a bunch of different reviews that they got to do. If we pass the test for all their reviews, then it should go and be awarded. So
the letter was mentioned. So what's online is actually a form that Jeremy made. It's kind of really easy for general public. The Eagles Nest should go away because of click, 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 click. You know, it's ugly, it sucks, it's dangerous. It's, you know, all of them are valid options. There are some groups that I'm going to that I would like to get, rather than just the form submission, I would like to get a letter from, and I would love it if we could get a letter from the planning board that is kind of more along the lines, you know, that is a written letter. You can certainly look at that for ideas and templates, but we think this is an important thing for Red Lodge because.
Where can people?
Jeremy, do you see it being a problem if somebody calls out it's been an eyesore for 20 years, is that gonna run counter to the application and referencing the flood?
I don't think, not necessarily, I don't think. I would say, I would encourage people to just keep it to the context of the flooding, and because that's what the grant is for, you know, cleaning up the floodway, you know, to, you know, prevent future structure damage and, you know, and all of those things. So I would limit it if we can, but I mean, if somebody sends in a comment that says this has been an eyesore for 20 years and it should be removed, I mean, I don't think that's going to hurt anything. If that makes sense. The other thing I would
100% of the letters that we get either. Yeah. Basically build a good package, but.
The other thing I would clarify is that the BRIC application is actually due to Montana DES July 3rd. For me, July 3rd is a holiday, so July 2nd is when I will have everything uploaded to the FEMA Go website. The FMA application is due to DES July 10th. So that's the two deadlines that I have. Now, that being said, that's DES's, because DES has to review everything because they're the actual applicant, the state DES group. Red Lodge is a sub-applicant to the state. So the DES folks will review the application for, you know, and get back to us if they see anything that we need to clean up or anything that may be missing or any additional information they want. I believe we may have the ability to upload additional letters of support as they come in up until the point the actual application gets submitted to FEMA.
And I will add that Jeremy's actually already been in contact with them, so we've already had draft applications that have gone in and back and forth, and do they see anything that's of consideration? So we've been hopefully we should have a pretty solid application.
Where
Yeah.
is that form on the website?
I didn't get the notice, so I couldn't tell you, but I've had several people tell me they were able to find it.
Oh, yeah, I looked, I couldn't find it.
Some Red Lodge Buzz, there's a link to it, so.
So, it's- don't try the city website, just go to the Buzz.
So I guess the answer is, is it possible, and how is the way we go about it appropriately to get a letter from the planning board by Tuesday
Yeah,
of next week? And I guess there's one variation where we have the planner write it, but if you guys can give your ideas or thoughts about what you'd like to be included into it.
Yeah, I think it would be good if Jeremy could draft the letter for us, and then we could review it. And,
we could do it all sign.
Are you
Yeah.
okay with that,
We can
Jeremy?
all sign. I can
Yeah,
get all of our
you
signatures through the
Yeah,
e-signing.
I can draft a letter, and I don't know that everybody on the planning board has to sign it. I think that Jeff, as the chair, could sign it.
Good.
I think the idea would be to have all the planning board members just review the letter, give a thumbs up, suggested edits, and then once it's good to go, we can have Jeff sign it. I can send a DocuSign or something to Jeff and have him sign it or something. I think that's appropriate.
Maybe we should do a, motion and just to make it part of the public record that we've actually put a rubber stamp on the letter.
There won't be time to do that.
No, I mean, oh, we don't have, that's right, we can't take
We
action
didn't
tonight.
publicly notice that
That's
you
right,
guys
we can't
had to
take
do
that,
that
never
tonight.
mind. Scratch that.
are you entertaining a motion?
No, I don't know that, I think the point is it's not on the agenda, so
Is that a taking action thing that we ought not to do, Jeremy?
probably.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary. It's just a letter of support for the project. You're not
Yeah.
approving or a project or anything like that. So I don't believe it's necessary to have a action item to approve, or, you know what I mean? It's just a letter of support saying the planning board supports this project. But it's no action on the side of the planning board, approving the project, if that makes sense.
I think at this point, we approve
Right,
having Jeremy write the letter
yep,
and Jeff sign for us after we've all approved
we'll look forward to seeing the,
draft.
draft.
What'd you say?
So we'll look forward to receiving the draft.
Okay. Anything else, Mayor?
Just clarify, not all the paving's gonna be done, but some of the water projects. If they're getting it up to road base right now, Fiddler's used as an example, there's not gonna be any road signs up and road shut down for the 4th of July. We'll be suspending all work next week. But there will be some roads you're driving on that are dirt, but they will be up to grade right now, which some of them are not quite yet. And then they're doing some paving, planning on being done with all of that first batch of paving by Friday, may go into Monday if the weather's bad.
Okay, anything else? So next on the agenda is public comment. This is general comment, not necessarily related to the hearing that we're going to have on the design review later. There'll also be that will also be open for public comment officially during that period. So right now, if you have any public comments relative to anything on the agenda or just in a general nature to the planning board, we'll entertain those now. And then if you're here to comment on the design review, I'll open that as a separate public comment after we hear what the proposal is.
Brooke Smith, 517 North Hauser. I'm addressing this specifically to Sandy, but I hope everybody knows. If you go to the city website, go to projects, news, go to news, all news, and then scroll down to the bottom, and you get it that way. You can't get to it easily by that link that they emailed.
I tried that, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Hope.
Any other comments? Anybody online?
No comments online, Mr. Chair.
Nobody online? All right. Next on the agenda is, under new business, is a public hearing for design review application for a neon sign located at 112 Broadway Avenue South in Red Lodge, Montana, the Central Business District, C4 Historic District. I have a qualification for the planning board. Does any member of the planning board have any ex parte communication to disclose?
No?
Does any member feel they should recuse themselves from participation in the hearing and decision on the matter before the board?
No.
Has the matter been properly noticed and required by the Red Lodge zoning regulations?
Yes.
Let the record indicate that Red Lodge Planning Board has been called and qualified to hear the matter at hand, that the matter is quasi-judicial in nature and has been properly noticed. I'll have a report from you, Jeremy, on the proposal.
Yep. All right, so this, as you stated, this is a design review permit review for 112 Broadway Avenue for a new neon sign. The subject property is legally described as Lot 13 of Block 18 of the Red Lodge original town site. Property size is 3,136 square feet. The notice was provided as required by the regulations. Sign Pro, on behalf of the owner, is proposing a neon sign on the property. The information is attached to the to the staff report, along with the images of the proposed sign. The request is to allow for a new neon sign within the Red Lodge Central Business Zoning District and Downtown Historic Overlay. Let's see, staff recommendations and suggested form of motion. I won't read all of those, but first step will be to move and adopt or not adopt the staff report and findings of fact, and then move to approve or deny the design review with 3 conditions. That the use, operation, and development of the property be in accordance with plans and specs and documents submitted. The sign shall be 7 feet tall, 2.5 feet wide at the top, 4 feet wide at the bottom, with the total square footage of the sign is of 21.5 square feet. And with the design dimensions as outlined in the application. Further, condition number 3, the applicant is required to consult with the Carbon County Historic Preservation Office to evaluate and approve the proposed colors prior to installation. A copy of the correspondence shall be submitted prior to that installation. Went through the design and review criteria. Sandy mentioned earlier that there was a section in here that talked about where the sign was placed. Let's see, I'm trying to find it here. Sandy, can you?
Yeah, it's on the 3rd page, and it's the 2nd paragraph. Under design review, the placement, it states that it's located below the 2nd floor windows of the adjacent building.
Oh, no, so that just means it's located in relation to the 2nd floor windows. It's the intent was not that it's located on the adjacent building. It's just,
Okay.
So that section of the staff report just talks about it has, not obstructing 2nd floor windows and stuff. So I was just talking about the placement of that is below the 2nd floor windows of the adjacent building.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Clear up your question?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Material, the proposed sign is made of approved sheet metal and historically accepted colors of black and silver. Again, I did add that condition that they coordinate with the county historical preservation office just to verify that those colors are acceptable prior to installation. The neon tubing does not have illumination ratings, but naturally dims at a slow rate over many years. The proposed sign does not use exposed bulbs or other types of lighting. And the neon is proposed as classic red and white colors per the application. General shape of the sign is triangular with rectangular bottom. Sign shape appears to fit well within a historic context, and font for signage is classic historical font. The size of the sign does not exceed 22 square feet. Design use permit materials, the look of the new sign are relatively similar to those typically associated of historic character. Size, location, materials, design are consistent with the intent of the zoning regulations. We have the proposed conditions. As such, the requested design review warrants approval. I think that's my staff report. I did attach the application materials and obviously the pictures and dimensions and those sorts of things that came in with the application. I will note that we did go back and forth. There were completeness review comments back and forth with the applicant several times to refine their design. The sign was much larger when I received the application than the 22 square feet, and the application was modified to fit within our requirements.
Is that it, Jeremy?
Yeah, for me.
All right. You have a report on behalf of the applicant? Is the applicant here?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I'm here, sorry.
Could you come up and state your name, please?
Yeah, I'm Brian Taylor, with Black Canyon Bistro. We are gonna be operating, the new proposed space.
Casino.
So I'm not the owner of the building, yeah. I know somebody said that you guys had questions about that
I do.
aspect of it.
We will. Well, I did
Okay.
in the beginning because we did a conditional use permit for Black Canyon Bistro to operate a casino as a secondary use.
Yeah,
So they applied for that, but then Katie, who actually currently still owns the building
correct.
where the casino would be housed, she's the one who's the applicant
Mm-hmm,
for the sign,
yeah,
for the building that can't have a sign because it can't have a freestanding casino. So you can see the circle that we're going.
yes. Go.
I didn't hear what you said about the association with Black Bistro.
So Black Canyon Bistro will be operating the casino on behalf of Katie until the purchase goes through.
Okay. So you're not so Black Canyon Bistro isn't leasing the building.
We are leasing the building until the sale goes through.
Okay. So there's a buy-sell already,
Yes,
and so this is just an interim period.
yes, correct.
Okay. So ultimately, this sign would be your sign.
Yes, correct.
Any other comments?
No, I mean, if you guys have any
All right,
questions.
I'll open up the public hearing portion right now, and then after the public hearing is closed, then come back to the board for any questions and discussions with either the applicant or with Jeremy. So I'll now open the public hearing for the design, for the proposed sign at Broadway.
I guess I don't understand.
Could you come up and
Sorry, yeah.
and state your name? I can't hear from back there.
And we're being recorded.
Hope Smith, 517 North Hauser. I guess what I don't understand is how you can vote on this, because it seems like one of the recommendations is that, actually says the applicant's required to consult with the Carbon County Historical Preservation Office. And that part has not been done. The information's not in this packet. So it seems like that should be done before you actually vote on this decision that you're making. And the second thing is, it talks about a second sign also, which won't be illuminated, but it says that was on a different permit, and I don't see that application. And I'm just kind of curious about where that sign will be and what that will look like. So we're gonna have two signs for this one thing. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to make a comment? Anybody online?
No comments online, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I'll close the public hearing. Board, I guess, coming back to the board, to kind of start with you, Susan, do you have any, I'll go this way. Do you have any questions of either Jeremy or the applicant?
I'm still puzzled as to who owns what and what the difference in this context is between ownership and leasing. If anybody could fill that in for me, it would help.
So one thing I will say is zoning follows property. It does not follow ownership. So that the ownership information that we have is part of our application, but zoning, such as structures, uses, all of that stuff follows the property. So regardless of ownership, does that make sense? So I don't know that ownership necessarily matters.
But then why would Katie be the one that was the applicant?
That's what's requested on
Because
that
she owns
application.
the property and the property owner has to sign the application approving what is being put on their property, or otherwise we can't process an application. So the property owner always has to be involved with an application. Because
And
we
the
can't.
authorized representative is SignPro.
Correct, because that's who submitted the application on behalf of the property owner.
I'll come back to you. Do you have anything else, Sue? Harry?
I'm just concerned with the brightness of the sign. I mean, if we were gonna if they wanted to put commercial lights, lights on the exterior of the building, we would require downlighting because of nighttime darkness. And it's just gonna be, it doesn't seem to fit with our dark sky, rules that we've implemented. And, if there was a condition of approval, when the business isn't open, the sign's off or something like that, that may be one way around it, but it's just gonna be projecting light. And, I guess if it was not perpendicular to the building, it would be less visible as far as.
We have required that with other neon signs, so that is something to
I know with Naughty Five, we required that it be street facing, not perpendicular.
Anything else?
Nope.
Sandy?
Okay, well, I think that I'm almost clear on the ownership type of thing, but they've gone to a lot of trouble to put it on Katie's property, when in fact it is going to be tied to Black Canyon Bistro. So they've gone to a lot of trouble to put it on one of the stacked stones to the left of the main building. And when it says that it's below the windows on the second story of the adjacent building, it actually is right next to the awning. So you have a gigantic 7-foot long, 4-foot wide sign that is really bigger than 4 feet because of the way they've got the metal that comes out from the building to support it. So the sign itself is 4 feet, but then you've got another thing that wasn't measured here. So it looks like it's gonna be closer to 5 or 6 feet out from the building. So you've got a gigantic 7-foot tall building, sign on a stacked stone that I don't know, maybe Jeremy knows how tall that stacked stone is. How much of the stacked stone is left after you put a 7-foot tall sign on it?
0.
And-
It looks to me like from the pictures that were provided that the frame mounts to the top of the stacked stone wall. The other thing I will clarify is that the casino is approved for that building, not for the Black Canyon Bistro building. They're two separate buildings. They're operated by the same business, right? But they're two separate buildings, and our zoning code does not allow signs to be off-site. So because the casino is in that building, the sign has to be located on that building. It can't be located on the Black Canyon Bistro building.
So the distance, when we're looking at the framework there, down, is what, about 3.5 feet into that stack?
I would say, yeah, that's probably about 3 feet, because the casino middle
Something like-
part is about 1 feet tall. So if you extrapolate that up and down, that's probably about 3 feet. So I would say the frame that starts at the top of that wall goes down 3 feet. So the sign will stick up approximately 7 feet or 4 feet above the top of that rock wall.
And that's what you meant, that it was gonna be below the windows on the second floor?
Correct.
No, it's not. Oh, you were not. I know, we see the next picture.
I just think it's oversized. I don't like that it's sticking out. I know that the Roman is one of we have 2 signs here in town that are very historic, and we don't want anything disturbing that view. So when you're looking down the street, are we gonna see the Roman sign, or are we gonna see this sign? I just, I don't like it perpendicular to the building. Maybe it's just my opinion, but 4 feet out and 7 feet tall is massive.
So I will just say that I don't know that our code has a restriction on projecting signs, on how far they can stick out from the building. I guess I would have to look into that. I couldn't find anything when I did this review. Further, they meet our minimum square footage requirements, or maximum square footage requirements, excuse me. So as far as size goes, they meet our requirements. So, I guess that's all I'll add to that.
And is that the entire sign, or is it just the words?
That's the entire sign, according to the application.
Do you have any thoughts about moving it like we did with Red Lodge Cafe?
I would love to move it on the inside so that it doesn't stick out over the sidewalk. There's apparently what they've painted black, starting with the actual building and sticking out so that it doesn't stick out past the stacked stone. Yeah, you see where your circle is? There's the black part in there. I would love to have it in there and have it flush with the building, not with the building, but with that side wall. I would prefer that to it sticking out from that stacked stone.
Facing north.
Thank you. Facing north. Yes, to me, that would be less obstructive and,
That's advertising.
I know. Well, they're not gonna miss it. They're not gonna miss it. So, and they're gonna have a second sign.
I would like that clarification. Which is the second sign?
Second sign is just going above the awning.
Oh,
Like the old one was.
Yeah, so the other sign is gonna go right here.
You see this? Yeah, like it used to be,
And it's not gonna be lit up or anything, it's just,
over the door.
yeah, over
with
the
sign.
door, yeah.
We already issued a sign permit for that. It's just a wall sign that's
I-
going up above the door.
I
Something
figured
that-
as much, I just wanted a little clarification for reference and context, that's all.
And that doesn't need, the planning board's approval because it meets the zoning.
Correct, yeah, it was
But,
not
yeah.
it wasn't a lighted sign, so it did not require design review. And I guess I would defer to the planning board on what you've done on this is my first neon sign design review, so with you guys, so I have no historical context on how you have handled these in the past as far as conditions and if you've required people to move locations of signs and those sorts of things. If you've done that in the past, then I mean I would say to be consistent with what you've done in the past, I think that's fine. I just have no historical context on how you've done this previously. So I think the important
And you
thing is you want to be consistent, right? So I think if you've required that of other people, then I think that's appropriate. If you've allowed signs like this in the past without requiring them to move it, then I think that's where you want to be careful.
And was this, sent over to the Historical Society for their approval?
That's why I added the condition that they need to send it to them and get their approval before they install the sign. And they need to provide that to the city before they install it.
And if they don't approve it, then what happens?
Then they don't meet
For
condition 3. Then they don't meet condition 3 and they can't install it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that condition 3 is very specific. That they have to submit and approve the proposed colors prior to installation.
That's just to evaluate and approve.
And that's
The
what
colors.
that's what I saw in
Only the color?
That's what I saw in previous design reports or design staff reports for other neon signs was they just reviewed the proposed colors. But you can change it if you would like. You can just say review the sign.
I think I've torn it apart enough.
This is your purview, right? This is your document to make suggested edits and
It is design review, so we do have the option of
Yes,
requesting modifications,
and we have in the past.
and we have in the past, yes.
So we do have that option.
Chelsea?
Oh, here she goes.
No, I just have the question for Jeremy, based off of our zoning code, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a requirement to turn off neon signs or city signs, business signs after business has closed for the day, correct?
yes, I believe that's correct. It's in the
Thank you.
sign. It's in the lighting section, I believe, that talks about that.
Yep. And as you mentioned, this sign is within our zoning code and meets all of the requirements and specifications that we currently have within our zoning code, correct?
Correct, based on what I've reviewed, and I reviewed several other past staff reports for neon signs. I believe that's the case.
And there is precedent throughout the community of signs perpendicular to buildings, as we have seen in multiple different signs that have been approved within the past, 5-10 years.
That I don't know. I don't have the historical context. This is my first neon sign design review, so I would
get
defer
the
to-
numbers at the table. I assume Foster and Logan's was one that was approved
With changes.
with changes, but it was perpendicular.
And then we denied the one for the naughty.
Yep.
That
So-
was perpendicular, so we denied that one.
Okay, so we're inconsistent. That's good to know.
Well, the consistency was that it was next to one of our historical signs,
Okay.
so it would block it.
Gotcha.
And that's why I brought up the Roman.
And I did take a look at some photos adjacent, or just showing that space around the Roman, because I also have that concern. And from what I see and the height of the Roman sign, as well as the location of this sign, it does not look that it would block that, except for maybe in a very small location, because obviously perspective is everything. But for the most part, that sign would be preserved through most locations, based off what I'm seeing in terms of those height differences. So I think that as is, I am happy with this sign. I don't think that we should eliminate their view from the street because we want it closer to the building. If we wanted to downsize it a little bit, I am good with that because it's consistent with the walkable sizing that we have within our growth policy. But obviously want to make it to where it's still visible from both directions. So that would be my feedback. Otherwise, everything seems consistent with our zoning, and as long as zoning codes and rules are being followed, I think that's great.
Okay. I guess I have a couple of questions, actually more than a couple, I guess. If this is, and this is probably directed more towards the applicant, is since this is going to be part of Black Bistro, why the name to Broadwater Casino? Why wouldn't it be just Black Canyon Bistro Casino?
That's the state requires.
What's that?
The state requires that it's two different businesses, that they have two different names. I don't know why that is, but that was a requirement when we applied for to use the gambling license. So just like the Naughty and the Red Lodge Cafe are technically the same business.
But Silver Strike isn't, the,
Silver Strike doesn't have isn't two parts. Right, it is just the casino.
Right.
Technically.
But to get a gaming license, you have to have a liquor license
full
Yes.
liquor
in
license.
your
Which we
name.
have.
So
Yes.
is the liquor license in
Black Canyon Beach.
Beartooth
Bear Creek Hospitality,
Broadway.
yeah.
or Broadway? Is it in Broadway or in Black Canyon Bistro?
It is being used by both, it will be used by both spots.
I guess, yeah, so I'm confused, I guess. Is it two separate businesses under two separate names? Or is it one business under two different names? And
It's one business
how is
under
the
two
liquor
different
license,
names.
and how is the liquor license assigned?
The liquor license is assigned to Bear Creek Hospitality that will be doing business at Black Canyon Bistro and Broadway Casino.
It's a DBA.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which is really standard, just for the record.
Yeah.
That's consistent with all of your bars downtown. Most of them, their business is not actually the thing you see on the sign.
but when we applied to the state, we couldn't use Black Canyon Bistro as a casino. We had to have doing business as another entity.
Probably why you see Montana Lil's and Town Pump.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know why that is a requirement. That was,
Does Black Canyon Bistro own that building?
no, we don't own the building. We lease the building and the liquor license.
And you lease the liquor license?
Yeah, concession agreement is the, technical term.
So the owner of the building is the one who applies for the liquor license and applies for the gaming license?
no, the owner of the business, the owner of the building is the one applying to have a sign on the side of their building.
Well,
I know it's confusing.
but they're not, but they're not gonna be the owner of the building by the time the sign goes up.
Well, then they're buying it with a sign.
Yeah.
They do. I think that honestly, the idea of whose business it is and what all of that is outside of our jurisdiction.
Except the casino part, because the casino part is tied to a liquor license. And I guess one of my concerns is the prominence of the word casino. And that's one of the rationales we used for moving the sign, at Red Lodge Cafe from being perpendicular to being, flush with the front of the building. So it says just simply says casino. It doesn't indicate a separate business at all. It's just, or what the business name is, it just says casino. And I guess that's kind of where I'm leaning, is basically simplifying the sign to kind of follow what Red Lodge Cafe did. My concern is there's three other liquor establishments on Broadway that also offer gaming. So are we kind of opening up the door for 3 more neon signs advertising casinos? And all of a sudden, we've got a Broadway that looks less historic, and looks a lot more like some of the entrances in commercial streets in Billings, where you have casino, 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 and you just lose that whole connectivity to the historic look. And so one of the things I did is I went back, and this is kind of where I was hoping you would look more than just at the zoning, Jeremy, because we've got the Red Lodge Vitalization Plan that talks about maintaining the historic character of Broadway. We've got the 1986 revitalization plan that also focuses on the historic look, both of which address signage and making signage simple and pedestrian scaled as opposed to the neon. And so if you look down Broadway, the majority of the signage fits that criteria, except for the few neon signs that we've approved. So I guess I think we need to, when we look at things from a design review standpoint, I think we need to set the context for where that sign is setting, and also what the direction is that we've had in terms of maintaining the look and consistency of our downtown. And I think this having this sign perpendicular kind of starts maybe opening the door for other neon signs that are available, that could be applied for on the other gaming establishments on Broadway. So I don't have an opposition to gaming, or casino. I actually have an opposite. I don't like the word casino, basically, because I think that changes the whole character of our downtown historic look. So the other thing that the master plan revitalization plan talks about is maintaining consistency throughout the block. So if you look down this particular block, you have a simple sign that's on the new fly fishing book, and you have the awnings, and then you have the Black Bistro sign, which is within that context, and then you have the Roman Theater. So my other concern is we've got the historic sign, Roman Theater, we've got the Red Lodge Cafe historic sign, we've got, I think, Park Theater is another one we've identified as sort of a historic. This sign and its location would sort of detract from that. So that's kind of where my concerns are. I think if we really are serious about maintaining the historic downtown and what really draws people to this community and why they come to this community and why they continue to come to this community, it's because of the historic downtown. You hear that repeatedly from folks. That's what. So I guess my position would either be to deny the sign and come back with a different proposal, placing the sign flush with the entrance, similar to what we did for the Red Lodge Cafe, the other point I'd like to make, why we moved the Red Lodge sign, or the casino sign for the Naughty Pine, was because it would have been in front of Red Lodge Cafe sign. So there is precedent for not always having a sign that's perpendicular to the building, but to actually maintain the appearance and not obstructing or detracting from the 3 or 4 really historic and iconic signs that we have in our downtown. So that's my, I guess, just kind of my thoughts.
Couple of questions, just, in terms of the other casinos or gambling establishments downtown. We have this one, the Red Lodge Cafe and Silver Strike. Are these the ones that we're referring to, or am I missing one?
Well, there are little casinos within,
All the bars. and
All the
stuff,
bars.
like Snag and stuff.
but they don't advertise it outside.
Right, because it's not 2 buildings.
No, just because they don't.
Right, well, I'm just saying, like, if the Snag, I don't think they'd be able to do 2 signs, would they?
They don't advertise as casinos,
Right, nor do I think they
but
would.
there's nothing saying that they couldn't.
Sure. And so one of my other thoughts with the pushback on this, and I understand the location of the Red Lodge Cafe sign versus the Red Lodge Casino sign, just because of the proximity and the height. Because again, when you're thinking of that different dimension, and when you have those 2 line by line, yes, that would absolutely block, but in this scenario, I don't think that does deter. And you can even look back at old Bridge Creek signs, going back to that historic value, to where that never deterred, and it was at that same height and length. And never took away from the Roman sign. In terms of consistency throughout the block, across the street over at the front bar, you have a very near alike sign. It has a very historic character to the design, unlike the Naughty Casino sign that was very modern and very also older, in my opinion. But realistically, this has a very historic aesthetic. And if you go back through historic Red Lodge pictures, there's a neon signs scattered throughout. And again, I don't want to deter from the big ones that have been identified, though I'm not sure if those have been identified within our growth policy or revitalization plans specifically, that we should. In all fairness, I think we should, but I don't necessarily think that this does detract from that signage. Again, if we wanted to go a little smaller on this and give them the opportunity to move forward with how it's presented, but just slightly scaled down, I am good with that. But on a whole, I think that some of those arguments could be countered, and I do fear that some of them could be inconsistent.
Sandy?
What we do with this sign, you have to imagine that the Snow Creek would apply for a sign that's perpendicular to the building, and the Village Shop would apply for a sign, and up and down Broadway, every single business could do exactly the same thing with a perpendicular sign. And that's why I don't want to approve this, because it's perpendicular. I have no problem with the neon. I think it should be flush above the door on that upper part. I think that's enough advertising. But whatever we do with one building, every single building, then we have no foot to stand on.
Well, I think pedestrian signing generally is perpendicular, and we see it consistently throughout town. So whether it's the Snag, whether it's Black Canyon Bistro, whether it's the fly shop, the coffee shop, like you have a whole
If
block.
they all did it,
I'm just saying, that's one of the things, if
It's
we
a-
don't want that, then we need to rezone that.
it's a visual that we don't want to see.
I
think
do.
we already have a lighting standard that says all light, it can't go above the horizontal plane.
Not true.
Well, look at 70 in our current standards.
And there's nothing in there that says they have to go off at night.
No, but so I'm reading from what our current existing is, and it says that, so they may not be tilted or aimed in a manner that results in light distribution above the horizontal plane. And then there's actually a diagram down below. And that's, yes, it's lighting, but I mean, again, neon signs are lighting. And if we're gonna have, the point was raised, other businesses are gonna, if they want to increase their visibility, are gonna want to put up neon signs on Broadway. But then we're just, what about apartments across the street, et cetera? You're just adding, above the building, you're just adding more lighting, every additional neon sign that we put in. And I don't think, yes, it's signage, it's not lighting, but it is illuminated signage, so.
I would like to point out that you can't review signage under the lighting standards. It has to be reviewed under the outdoor advertising standards. I just want to point that out. So that requirement is not in outdoor advertising. So I just want to point that out. I not saying that you're necessarily wrong. I just want to say that we have to review signs against the outdoor advertising section, not lighting section.
Well, I think I'll kind of ask the applicant, where we've discussed about moving this, not having your sign perpendicular, but moving your sign so it's over the door, advertising as a casino or advertising however you want to, but what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I get your point, but also there's, like Foster Logan's has theirs perpendicular. It is neon. We did neon because, to our understanding, that was what was give the more historic look. We were trying to stay more within, those, that was the guidance that we gave Sign Pro, is to be more within the look of Red Lodge, and to also not be, most of that sign is not going to be neon. It is more just, it's the, I don't know if you can scroll back to it, but it is just the wraps and the thing. It's not full neon, right? It is more to be aesthetic and give the more historic look to it. We weren't trying to make this into a casino town. That was not, so it is essentially, a white, and then it's just two white lines, and then those other two white lines around the side. So most of it is not neon,
Andy?
And I like the design.
Yeah.
I don't have any trouble with the design.
For sure.
My concern is the perpendicular to the building,
Mm-hmm.
the size of it. At least Folo's and Natali's were on the second story of the building.
Mm-hmm.
This is way down on the first story,
Mm-hmm.
because it has to be at this point. But
Right.
that bothered me quite a bit, that it
Sure.
was on the first story as opposed to the second story.
Yeah, and I know that when he came out and we had discussions, is we wanted to make sure that it is the base of that is at the base of where Black Canyon Bistro sign is. So that is consistent, right? So the very bottom part
Right.
will be, perpendicular to the Black Canyon Bistro base.
It'll actually get in the way of Black Canyon Bistro. I'm looking at it on Google, and if you put that sign perpendicular where it's proposed, people coming in from the north going south,
Mhm.
that will actually be the only sign they see. They'll have to be going by it before they can see your Black Canyon
Right.
Bistro.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
Black Canyon has a good, well, I think that we have a good enough name that people will stop anyways, but,
So would you like to entertain a condition or a motion to move the sign?
Would it be better?
What about asking, I think it might be appropriate to ask the applicant if they might consider just moving the sign to the other face of that rock wall, so it's parallel with the building face rather than perpendicular to the building over the sidewalk, then it would face out towards the street rather than down the street. If that's something
So
that,
you're saying move the sign not so it's over the door, but so it's on that south wall facing north. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, so it'd be parallel with the street, but it'd still be on that rock wall, and it'd be kind of elevated out. That might be a compromise. Rather than having it back against the building, away from the street, at least it would be out towards the street, but it wouldn't be perpendicular to the building.
So it would be flat on the north side of that south stack stone.
It would be coming out.
Like,
It would be sticking out from that. So you'd just
it would
move
be
it around the
sticking out.
corner. So it would be projecting from that wall. It would be projecting from that wall instead of from the wall facing out towards the street. So it'd still be projecting sign, it just wouldn't be projecting out over the sidewalk out in front of the Black Canyon Bistro. It would be parallel with the building face. But
So it wouldn't be protruding over the sidewalk. It'd actually be, like you're showing, it's gonna be,
protruding over
the face of it gonna be facing to the west, right?
Correct.
If I understand what you're drawing, right?
Correct. Yes. That might be if the applicant is, that might be a compromise, so that it's not necessarily back against the face of the building on the building, but still out towards the sidewalk and the street, but not, because I think this is kind of a unique situation in that this building is set back from the rest of the buildings, so it does have that setback. So I think, having it all the way back against that building would you wouldn't see the sign until you basically drive right by the business. This way, at least it's out on the sidewalk, but it's not perpendicular to the Black Canyon Bistro building and over the sidewalk next to the street, if that makes sense.
You have any thoughts about that?
Lots, but, I guess I wouldn't be opposed to it if that's the route that we need.
I'm happier with that design than the current one.
What'd you say?
I'm happier with that concept than the current one. Having it, attached here and sticking out that way. So the face of the sign would be actually facing Broadway.
Would be facing Broadway, yeah.
It'd be facing Broadway. So it's actually perpendicular to the north side of the building. I still think that the 7 feet is massive. I don't know what the distance is between here and here. Any concept of what the distance is of that black portion? Is that 7 feet?
No, I don't. I don't know. I would say maybe right around 6, 7 feet, somewhere in there.
That is one
The
thing
only thing I would say about the sign is they meet our sign requirements as far as square footage. So, that's the only thing I will say about the sign size is they meet they're less than the 22 square feet.
It does say in our zoning that the sign has to be at least 8 feet from the sidewalk
In height.
in height.
Yeah.
Has to have an 8-foot clearance.
Mhm.
So ideally that's 8 foot.
Which it still should be if you're just turning the side, because if it's perpendicular, it must be meeting the 8 feet.
Well, I think she means more like if it was lower. Yeah, it's gotta be up there at 8, right?
Well, see where he's got the bars, whatever the supporting bars, he has them at the very top of the stack stone.
Yep.
So it protrudes actually above,
Which is how it's in this, isn't it?
which is, I think that's fine.
Yeah, it's how it's.
I would be happier, I would be much happier to approve that, even though I still am not fond of the concept of 7 feet. I know with Folos and with Natali's both, we did reduce the size of the sign, and it's still visible. It's not but I would have to go back and see what size that is. Do you remember, Jeff?
I don't, but we did do that. I do remember that. So what are your thoughts in terms of reducing the height of the sign as well?
I mean, if we kept it protruding out, I would be, like making it smaller. I'd be here for it, because if we make it perpendicular, I don't think it would matter as much, since it wouldn't be protruding out onto the street. And the clearance would actually be 10 feet, because that's the clearance of the sign on Black Canyon Bistro, where it's 10 feet, from the ground. And we asked them to keep that, so it would be 10 feet from.
Chelsea, you have any thoughts?
I think that if they were to shrink the size, they should be allowed to keep it perpendicular to keep it consistent with across the street, and I think that would look really nice.
Yeah.
I think if they keep it inward facing, they should be allowed to go as tall as they want. Within the guiding, within the 22-foot total facing. So that's my personal thought is, if we're making asks of them, I think that let's keep it fair, and I think having that visibility from both sides is fair for a business, and I think that keeping it perpendicular is consistent, and I personally like that aesthetic, but it's not what I think personally, it's what the zoning tells me and what our growth policy and those types of things, trying to keep it not subjective.
And that's why I was referring to the growth policy and downtown plan in terms of the context within what the look is. And as it's been stated in this meeting before, is we need to protect the Red Lodge brand as well.
Yeah.
So
I think it's consistent with a lot of those historic signs and the Red Lodge aesthetic and the Red Lodge brand.
Harry?
No, I agree with you, Chelsea, that I think, and I am looking at the sign portion. In the historic, for illuminated signs in the downtown historic overlay district, there are some placement requirements, and they must be installed in appropriate sign areas as defined by the existing architecture of the facade. No sign shall be placed or located so as to obscure or cover a vertical architectural element such as a column or pilaster. Signage will fit entirely within the horizontal divisions between floors to the extent feasible. And I understand we have a one-story and two-story building adjacent one another. And where no architectural divisions exist or are evident, signage will be proportionately scaled to the facade and placed to respect window and door openings. And I think that's where we get into an issue with this. It's the size of that sign in proportion to the frontage of, not Black Canyon Bistro, but the frontage of the proposed casino. I just feel it's overly large.
And that's why I'm recommending having the same size as the front bars, because I think that's a good size, and I think
Still visible.
It's still visible, it does the job, but I think if they do that, they should be allowed to keep it perpendicular.
I guess try to move this forward a little bit here. I guess we have two things. I think you can either ask the applicant what their preference is, and then if their preference is to reduce the size, we need a size. We need to provide the applicant with direction. So we need to craft a condition as such. So if 7 feet is too tall, then what is the height that you want? Or what height is it that you feel is appropriate?
Is someone gonna measure the front door sign right now?
Mr.
I
Chairman,
mean,
can I ask
or
a question?
the other option is you could table this and request the applicant come back with a revised design after hearing your concerns and your comments. And we could review it at the next meeting.
Does anyone, can we ask to see if, since we have people that showed up, does the public get to weigh in on this
Not-
at this point?
Can
Not
I
one-
weigh in as
not
the
one.
zoning administrator for the city? Because that's technically me right now.
Not once we've closed the public comment.
But you said that you would open it for them to,
Well, that's later in the,
well, I don't want to vote on it and then get their opinions.
I don't,
Anyway, apparently
Can-
Dave wants to talk.
Jared?
I had a question going back to can you go back to the picture? As you guys are talking about alternatives and flipping the sign, I have two questions on this. What if there's no neon on this, if that's just red paint rather than neon signs? And then my question for Jeremy is, does it even require a conditional use at that point? Or what is it that triggers a design review, rather? Not a
Neon.
conditional use?
Neon.
Because if the neon is gone, does that element go away? And does the objection go away?
So, yeah, your point is, as far as lighting and what's pushed it into, design review is the fact that it isn't illuminated. If it wasn't illuminated, I think it would not require design review, according to what I'm reading.
That was kind of the question I thought, was as I drop into Street View and look, there's a lot of perpendicular signs.
Right.
They're just not lit.
Mm.
and that was kind of my point. The majority of those perpendicular signs are small in scale, simple, but, so, and that's kind of the look that we've been perpetuating in our historic downtown Broadway is more of that look that's late 1800s, early 1900s kind of. That's what they focus on in the 86 revitalization plan, and in the more recently downtown master plan. And our growth policy references both those in terms of maintaining the historic look. So, my point is, you can't look at an individual building in and by itself. What the downtown master plan said is you look at the block as a whole and the streetscape that's associated how that block is. And then you step back and then you look at the broader picture in terms of how the streetscape looks within the entirety of the downtown. And it's advocating for consistency. And so my concern is, and it has a little bit more to how come we keep getting these proposals for neon when in fact that's not really what has been identified to maintain the historic downtown. And I think we've made a mistake in the past when we opened that door, and now we're dealing with that. But I think if we're serious about maintaining the historic Broadway, then I think we need to be consistent in terms of when we do get neon, that we minimize its effect on the neighboring businesses and their signage. So that's kind of where I'm coming down from. So I guess I'm open to reducing the size of the sign, and also to moving it as Jeremy suggested. The other option is just to not have neon at all, as was
Discussed,
that.
as the mayor had requested. I'm concerned about tabling it and asking them to redesign because we're not really clear on what we want them to do. We don't want them to go to back and forth. That'd be kind of crazy. Out of curiosity for Black Canyon Bistro, why apply for the sign prior to purchasing the building? Why not waiting till you own the building?
Well, because it's gonna take 3 months to make
Oh,
the sign.
oh,
Yeah, so we need approval so that it can be started to be made. Because there's only one person in Montana that makes neon signs anymore, so.
sign pro.
And
yeah.
yeah, and they're pretty backed up, so that is why we're proposing it now, because it will be.
Is
quite
it a
while
condition of the sale?
before- No, the sign,
Can I
Chelsea?
I think that going back to what Sandy said, we don't have a direction for them, and going back to what Jeremy recommended, what would be the applicant's preference of the options that we've kind of laid out? I think he has a good grasp of what the concerns are and what some of the options on the table might be. I think it'd be helpful to know what their preference is, and then maybe we can help provide direction and come to a compromise.
So yeah, I think there's two options. Either you work with the applicant tonight on their preferred option and build that into a condition, okay? Or you table it and they come back with an alternative design. That, I think those are the two options. I don't see another path for, I mean, unless you want to specifically say, this is what we want. And then they can decide if they want to move forward with that or not.
What, I can't open we closed public hearing, so I can't get comments from the audience at this point. Sorry. Do you have a preference, or what are your thoughts?
I mean, as far as, what we're using it for, and it being a casino, the neon look is kind of the aesthetic that goes with it. It is kind of old time, it is, because honestly, most of the reason why most people aren't gonna ask you to approve a neon sign is because it's very expensive. This sign is gonna cost about 4 or 5 times what a normal sign would cost. But we wanted to keep the aesthetic that goes with it. I'm open to whatever, like making it smaller, minimizing how much neon is on it. I'm obviously, we want to be good neighbors, and we want to be, I want that downtown to have a look, so I'm here to, make that happen. I'm not trying to force anything. This was the design that they came up with, and if we decide that doesn't look historic enough, I'm fine with trying to make it look historic, so I'm not opposed.
You said you're fine with not having the neon, or you still want?
I would like to have neon. I'd like to come to a spot where we can still have neon. However that looks, that would be my preference.
So based on that, what's the planning board's feeling on an acceptable sign height and projection? I mean, they have it currently at 7 feet tall from the bottom to the very top of the triangular piece. I mean, we have to have some kind of direction for them or to draft a condition. Otherwise, again, we're back at, tabling and having them come back with another proposal.
Well, I think if we were to look across to Folo's, I think that sign is like maybe about 4 or 5 feet.
Yeah.
That's where I was going. It's somewhere between 4 and 5 feet. And so I would say that if we could get it, instead of 7 feet, down to 5 feet, that would be easier and more palatable.
Plus, it would be cheaper.
Yeah.
True.
But honestly, I think the design goes with the period and all of that, so I don't have any problem with the historic look of the sign. I don't have any problem with the way that it's lit. It's fairly minimal, not too bad. And I know that neon doesn't spit out lumens or whatever it is that, you know, like a regular sign.
No, we've exempted this.
Yeah, but I would rather see it so that it is on that wall and it's facing Broadway, so it's perpendicular to the wall. To me, that would be,
Parallel.
yeah, so that it sticks out. I would be okay with that.
Yeah,
That,
I'm okay with everything you said, Sandy. I think 5 feet is, that makes it more proportional with the building it's intended for, because, I mean, right now, to me, it looks like it's scaled for the 2-story building, not the 1-story.
and somewhat it is, I'm sure,
Yeah,
but it seems to be overkill.
yeah.
Sue?
I'm with the 5 feet and a lower price. Because it's a give type thing. You know, we want it to be able to work, but on the other hand, we want it to work in the same aesthetic that we're used to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, when this was all created, back whenever it was created, we exempted certain signs, the non-conforming signs, and we did that for historic preservation reasons. And I think, you know, leaving it at 21.5, which is a half a foot underneath our maximum size, we're essentially bumping up against the signs that we're trying to preserve the history of. So, you know, I think 5 feet's great.
So then the question comes back, should we table it so we actually have a look-see at another,
No, I'd
or
be okay with that, and I
do we
think
make it a condition?
I think we want the historic review to.
And I would like to have
As well.
the historic review before we
Right.
approve it,
Yep.
not after.
Mm.
That's my opinion.
Just for the colors.
Just the scholarship.
Well, that's weird wording.
It is weird wording. It's even
My
hard to
bet
say
is
that.
at one point, because again, he's taking this from historic value, there was someone that came back with something that was not historically colored, which is all black and white anyway, so how do we know?
Yeah, red, white, and black. I still think that we should have that historical stamp of approval prior to, instead of having it a condition, I'd rather see it up front.
I feel like, I'm not gonna lose sleep over that, but I think more so 5 feet, allow perpendicular. That's my recommendation and my preference, and I think that's a good compromise of size, and it doesn't detract, and at the same time, it still stays consistent with the community.
What, on the placement, if we reduce the size, it would then be perpendicular to the street, or
It would be facing the street,
I
so.
think it'd be perpendicular.
it'd be like it is now, except it'd be 5 feet high instead of 7 feet?
Well, and it would also be placed where he was drawing the picture, it would be on this wall, this direction,
Okay.
not this direction, but that direction.
That's what she wants, for the record.
So we've kind of got consensus on the 5 feet. What do people think about moving the sign from being perpendicular to the building to being on the side of the building?
It's only visible from coming in from the north. It's not visible from the south at all. And
Correct.
I think that's,
Yeah, it's rude,
But then they have another sign on the building itself.
which is also only visible from that same direction. You're not getting any of that visibility south and
Black
north.
Canyon Bistro's, yeah, is sticking out.
Yeah, and most of town has perpendicular signs, a good majority,
Yeah, on their second floor.
or on their first floor.
Mostly on the 2-story buildings. At least, the only one on that block that isn't is the dentist office across the street. They have signs, there's 2 signs there.
Sandy, this is that whole block right there, all first story.
I think
No,
if
the
you're gonna,
building-
I think if you're gonna allow, or I think if you're gonna require the
Yeah,
sign to be
that's right.
smaller,
This is a two-story
It
building. I don't think
seems-
it matters if it's one or 2 stories.
What'd you say, Jeremy?
it seems to me if you're gonna require the sign to be smaller to be consistent with other signs that are perpendicular to the street, then you should allow it to be perpendicular to the street. If you're not gonna require it to be smaller, I think it's a one or the other. If we keep the sign the same size, then you move it to the other wall to face out towards the street. If you're gonna require them to make the sign smaller to be consistent with other signage that's on Broadway, then you allow them to leave it perpendicular to the street so that people can see it when they're driving down or walking down the street.
So, so two things happen if we reduce the height of it. We're also gonna reduce the height of the casino. I mean,
Yeah, the whole thing.
and the other, to make it proportional, the other thing, so right now, the part that's casino is 1 foot, so it would be somewhat less than 1 foot. Also, so what that does, that narrows it from 4 feet width down, probably to 3 feet maybe, which then in turn allows you to move the sign closer to the building.
Right, yeah.
So how's that sound?
Yeah.
Well, I keep going back to both Folo's and Natali's, and those were attached above.
Right.
It's the height of those signs. Like if this sign were on the Black Canyon Bistro building, I wouldn't have a problem with it on the second floor, like we did with Folo's and like we did with the other one. And we had them reduced, but we had it on the upper floor. This is so low is my problem. It's very low, and I just looked at the whole block, and there's nothing that compares, except the ones that we did approve that were on the second floor.
If we had them on the second floor, then it would actually block the Roman sign.
Yeah,
Again, it makes more sense where it's at, and it's very
Sure.
consistent with all of downtown and the full vision.
But they can't put it any higher because the building it has to be on, it only has 1 floor. So they can't move it any higher. So that's
and
not
I
an option
understand
in
that.
this case.
I understand that, but at some point, they're gonna be owning that building, and they could put it on the Black Canyon Bistro building.
No, because
And-
they're still 2 separate buildings or 2 still separate properties. And the sign cannot be off-site. So if you go by the strict interpretation of the regulations, the sign has to be on the building in which the use is in. So I don't think that's correct. Just because they own the building doesn't mean they can just move the sign over to the bistro building.
So that's why the framework for this sign is all on the stacked stone.
Correct.
Because that's part of 112.
Right.
So do I have
Oh.
a table or a motion to table
Well,
and then provide some direction, or a motion to,
This is what I would suggest. I would suggest that we add a condition that says that the applicant shall size the sign to be not more than 5 feet in height, and the sign shall be sized proportional to a 5-foot height or something like that. And then the sign design needs to be resubmitted to the zoning administrator for approval with this condition prior to installation, or something like that.
And not come back.
And then still have it perpendicular,
Yeah.
the way they've designed it.
so what you were suggesting was what we would put in our motion to table it?
No, to approve and add a 4th condition. That's what I would suggest. it seems like that's the way the board would like to go with this, is a reduced sign size that's perpendicular to the building. And the applicant seems to agree to that. And so that would be my suggestion, would be to approve with an additional condition, number 4, that the sign size be reduced to a maximum height of 5 feet and the sign be scaled proportionate to the 5-foot height, and that new design be submitted to the zoning administrator for review and approval prior to installation. That's my suggestion.
I can't say that I'm gonna vote for having it perpendicular to the building.
You don't have to.
That's just what
No, I
I'm saying
don't.
is my suggestion. What you guys do from here is up to you, but that's my suggestion, mainly because if the sign takes 3 months to make and we make them wait another month for you guys to review this, then that delays them 4 months.
So if we go with the condition versus tabling, then we won't be able to see
See it
that,
ever again
yeah.
until it's done.
But I mean, we have your direction, and if you're okay with 5 feet, then why?
Ah,
The other concern that I heard, Jeremy, was, we would like to see the, historic preservation officer's report as well,
prior.
prior to coming back to. So if we did it as a condition, we wouldn't see that report.
But if you require it as a condition that be submitted to the city and the zoning administrator has that correspondence that they've approved it, then if we get correspondence that the preservation office doesn't approve it, then we as the city, as city staff would not approve installation of the sign. Does that make sense?
I
So I'm
think
not
we're
sure.
leaving too much up to city staff.
Do you want to make?
I would move to table this until the historic preservation officer has had a look at it, number 1. And I personally would like to see 2 designs submitted. One with the smaller, the 5-foot, and proportionate on the 4-foot, whatever that is, 5 to 2.5. But I'd like to see the other location as well, where it's attached to that wall and, facing the street, as opposed to driving down the street and seeing it. Because that seems to be where I don't like this, but I think I'd like that, but I want to make sure we do this right. And I don't want to lose control of neon signs on Broadway. So I would move to table it at this point.
Is there a second? Perry seconds. Did you get that? So we probably should clarify the wording that we had, that she said.
Wouldn't it just be a motion to table it, is what she said?
Yeah.
That's all it has to be.
And the applicant has heard, you know,
Well, I want
our
to make sure,
concerns.
that we're giving good direction to the applicant so that we make sure we document what, so what I heard is actually 3 things. One is we would like to see review for the report from the historic preservation officer. And the second one was to see a updated, refined design that shows that the design reduced to 5 feet and scaled appropriately to the building. And one option is for it to be perpendicular to the building. The other option would be to have an option where it is facing, it's
facing
perpendicular
Broad.
to the street to where it's facing.
Yeah.
Parallel to the street, parallel, yeah.
With that,
Parallel to the
Parallel.
street. And I think that summed it up very well, thank you.
Okay. Any discussion, comment?
I think as Jeremy said, if we have a condition that it gets approved by the city staff and within the rules and regulations, and if it's the preservation officer is providing a report that says, yeah, this is historic, this is good, that should be all that we need. Is that, I mean, realistically, that's all we would be reviewing here at the table anyhow. It's not like we would be like, well, no, I don't agree with the preservation officer. Like, that's not how that would work. So if they're coming back with that approval and that's within the conditions, I don't see a reason to extend it for that reason. And frankly, I feel a majority of the people at the table are content and satisfied with a reduction in size and keeping it perpendicular. So I think that we should not table it. We should make a motion to approve with the additional conditions.
I guess, yeah, I would also, I guess, if we're talking about getting a report from the Historic Preservation Officer, I would like to have them look at it within the context of the downtown revitalization plan and the historic characteristic of the downtown, not just in terms of looking at one individual sign without.
And a growth policy.
I don't think that's necessarily in their purview, would it be? I think they're looking at it from a historic value.
Yep.
Well,
So, again, the revitalization of the downtown plan, I think more so we're leaning on them for their expertise less than them leaning on us. So specifically, I think it'd be their position to review it in historical context versus in reflection. Well, all we say within our master plans and our growth policy is that we want to maintain historical character. We don't say in what era, we don't say what colors, again. And that's, I think that's where we lean on them, is for their expertise.
To have the opinion from the historic, yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Okay, sorry, the
Yeah.
way you had said it was with them using that as the scope.
Yeah,
and
rather
like,
than-
they don't need
Yeah,
that. for the
rather
scope.
than looking at this specific sign in terms of color and stuff, to look at it within the context of the other signage within, that is consistent with the revitalization plan.
you know, we're at this point where the growth policy, which is the guiding document for our zoning, the growth policy has been approved.
Mhm.
And our zoning is in the process of matching that. And so I think that what we need to do is look at the growth policy as a board and see if this is gonna work with the growth policy. Because that is our guiding document at this point, since the zoning is in flux, we'll call it. So I think that we need to double check on the growth policy and make sure that we're adhering to that, since it's the only guiding thing that we have at this point.
Yeah, well, I agree with that, but I also would add the 86 revitalization plan and the 2025 master plan.
Yeah.
But actually, the growth policy references both those documents anyway, so
Correct.
they are part of the growth policy.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? So what we have on the table, or we have a motion and a second to table the motion with providing direction to the applicant to come back with a revised design, either reducing the size. I would also encourage to take a look at Folo's sign to see how that is scaled. Not Folo's, but Natale's.
Trolley, the
Cross.
polos as well.
But that's on a single-story building as well, so that might give you a sense of proportions.
But it has a really big facade above it.
Not the Natale sign. Natale's is on a single-story building as well.
Polos has the
Yeah,
facade.
Polos.
And Polos is a second-story building, the two-story.
Correct.
So, call for a motion,
We've got a motion, we got a second, we're just looking for a vote.
right?
Call for the question. Roberts? Yes. Cupid?
No?
Boise?
Yes,
Conley?
Yes,
And Di Benedetto?
Yes.
sorry.
Sorry.
We'll see you back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's important, that since we tabled it, that we do visit this at the next, we should visit this at the next planning board meeting. It needs to be, if they decide Pro can turn it around that quickly.
Well, I think we're gonna need to, I think we need to address neon downtown.
Well, I think, you know, I don't want to get into the discussion. We, right now, we're working within the existing guidelines. And as we get to this area in our revisions, I think we all have some ideas on things we want to change, so. No, we can't hold them to that.
No, of course not.
Well, as I was reviewing these documents earlier, there's a couple of things stuck out to me. As we've been going through zoning, we haven't been looking at the growth policy as we've been for these different areas. We haven't been looking at, well, we haven't really gotten to the downtown well, we did, but we should be looking at those three documents for the downtown area, and then for other areas, we should be really looking at the growth policy, especially given some of the discussion we've had on the community entrances, because we have some specific goals and objectives for the community entrances, so.
So I guess I would point out that July 8th is the next meeting. And so based on that, we already had the public hearing. Tonight was the public hearing on this, so we don't need to do another public hearing. So this will be tabled under old business and brought back for hopefully final decision. So I guess directed at the applicant, if you can get Sign Pro to work on revisions to this, and we can get it in front of the historic preservation officer in time, we can get the staff report amended and get this back in front of the planning board for the July 8th meeting.
Yeah,
Is that feasible?
I'll make that happen.
You've got the holiday in there, but
Yeah, it's not like it's busy or anything. Busy for a restaurant on the 4th? Heavens no.
or the 2nd or 3rd.
Does July 8th give you enough time, or would it?
I mean, we'll make it work. I'd rather not
Drag
draw
it
a
out.
little bit farther, you know,
Okay.
if we
And
don't have to.
it wasn't my preference too. There was just a preponderance of
For sure.
concerns.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we'll move on with the agenda, which is under old business, continuing with, review of the zoning regulation. Well, it's actually,
7:25.
Yeah.
so I guess we'll delay the zoning regulations discussion till our next meeting, which is July 8th. I guess what you said,
Yeah.
Jeremy?
Correct. Yep, that's correct.
All right, so, written correspondence, staff communications update.
I don't have anything. I have not received anything from the applicant for the Spires subdivision for the second phase or whatever. Still waiting on their sufficiency comment responses. So potentially may see that by the end of this month, but haven't seen anything yet, so.
All right. Petitions, communication from the audience, so kind of open it up for another opportunity for public comment. So anything on our agenda or anything in general, please come forward, state your name and address. And
Steve Smith, 517 North Hauser. I just have one comment on, I'm sorry to do this now, but there wasn't much consideration if the sign if perpendicular is a choice, approved choice, would it help to move it, not have this extended support structure and it wouldn't be as much of a block perhaps. I'm just wondering if you got just an opinion.
Yeah.
Your suggestion.
Okay. Jeff Wise, Red Lodge, I guess, I don't have to do the whole address thing. Why not, put the sign on a pole that Katie Cakes, or whatever that's gonna
Used to
be.
be Katie Cakes.
Right, there's kind of a courtyard thing there, why not put a pole in the middle and then have the sign attached to that? It could be raised up and down, but it could be set back just enough that it's not, you know, blocking the signage of the Roman or any of the other signs.
Right,
I mean, you have to get power to it,
right.
that might be a problem, but just a thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have comment?
Holly McPherson, North Platte. I just want to thank you.
I can't, you have to speak up.
I just want to thank you for, bringing up the people's, attitude about, historic preservation. And, I mean, we've been doing months and months and months of surveys and interviews and all kinds of things to find out what the community wants. And every single one of those, the top was preserve the historic value of this community. And that's what brings people here. So thank you for bringing that up, and just continue to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Would you please restate your name for the record?
Polly, Victor?
Thank you.
You do have folks online, I don't see raised hands yet, but
Anybody online?
I do see folks, but I don't. Anybody online who'd like to comment, raise a hand or take the mic off mute? Appears to be no comment, Mr. Chair.
No comments?
No,
All right. I'll call us adjourned.
thank you, Jeff.
Thank everybody for your
Anybody up here like
input, discussion.
some brownies?
Oh my gosh, look at you.